Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, one and all. Thanks for being here. We got 3 hours of sports talk coming your way this afternoon on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook video stream, WIBW News. However you're tuning into the program today, thanks for being with us from Jump Street. Our only thought is to entertain you for the next 3 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan Lucero. I am once again on a solo mission this afternoon. Spencer Dupuis is off today. Brendan Wrzinski is off today. So it's just me and you and some sports for the next 3 hours. And I am excited to be with you and excited for a jam-packed show today. We get to talk some baseball. We get to talk quite a bit of baseball. Major League Baseball held its All-Star Game last night. Did you watch it? Did you hang in there until the swing-off at the end of 9 regulation innings? For the first time ever, a baseball game that we all got to see. I'm told this has been tried in unaffiliated levels of minor league baseball. But a baseball game that we all got to see was decided by an impromptu home run derby after 9 innings that saw the National League and American League deadlocked at 6. And I wanted to hate it so bad. And it rocked. It did. It was awesome. We're going to talk about why it was awesome and why it worked and why it worked in the context in which we saw it last night, but would not work in any other context. So we will talk about broadly what I liked, what I didn't, because I'll be a grump about some stuff. You'll get traditionalist, old school, resistant to change, getting older, get off my lawn, Dan, in regards to some things from the All-Star Game. Don't worry. If that's what you're here for, you're going to get some of that. But I could not hate on the swing off, man. That was cool. And everybody was into it. It was fun. Sometimes fun is good. So my thoughts from the Major League Baseball All-Star Game last night. One of the few things on the sports calendar anymore that everybody experiences, right? The TV ratings for it certainly aren't what they used to be, but it is the only thing going. And if you are a sports fan, or let's be honest, if you're enough of a sports fan that the thing you want to do is listen to sports talk radio or a sports show, then you probably watched the All-Star Game last night. You probably checked it out for a few innings. You at least checked in if you heard that Bobby Witt Jr. was in the game or your favorite player was in the game, or whatever it was. So it's one of those few sporting events that has all the eyes in the sports world, with all due respect to Caitlin Clark injuring her groin in a WNBA game last night. The eyes of the sports world broadly were on Atlanta and Truist Park and the Midsummer Classic. So it's fun to talk about it, and I look forward to hashing it out with you folks here today on 580 Sports Talk. We got plenty of Royals to talk about. The Royals made a trade today. Adam Frazier's back. Adam Frazier's back? Yes, the Royals have brought back the 30-something utility man. 1-for-1 swap with the Pirates earlier today. Cam Devaney goes to Pittsburgh. I bet you forgot Cam Devaney was on the active roster. You know who else forgot Cam Devaney was on the active roster? Matt Quatraro. Because Cam Devaney got into as many games while on the Royals active roster as you and me did. And unless you listening are like literally Bobby Witt Jr., you played in more games than Cam Devaney over the last week or so. But you guys get the point. Cam Devaney to Pittsburgh, Adam Frazier back with the Royals. If you think to yourself, hey, wait a minute, didn't he stink last year? Yup. Well, is he doing any better this year? Nope. So why then would the Royals make the move and bring back Adam Frazier? I have a theory. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Plus, the two most important Royals in the second half of the season. We'll recap the first half a little bit. Again, what I liked, what I didn't, and what has to happen. The two most important Kansas City Royals for the second half, if they are indeed to make a playoff push, with their playoff odds sitting at around, depending on who you listen to, 10 or 11% going into the second half of the season, which begins on Friday. So lots of baseball today. Very excited to talk some baseball with you all on the program. But don't you fret, we got plenty of football too. Our Chiefs countdown to kickoff reaches 51 days today. We are 51 days away from the start of the Chiefs 2025 season and their season opener in Brazil against the Los Angeles Chargers. And number 51 for the Chiefs is Mike Danna. And Mike Danna needs a bounce back 2025. We got some numbers that are not particularly flattering to not only Danna, but everybody else part of the Chiefs pass rush last year. But I'll give you a reason for optimism. Another one for this year's pass rush to be more productive than last year's pass rush was. But Mike Danna, or Danna, excuse me, I'll get it right consistently one of these years. I swear to God, in college it was Danna. Everybody called him Danna at Michigan. I swear this is true. Maybe this is a Mandela effect kind of thing, but I swear when he played at Michigan in college, it was Danna, and now it's Danna. So that's why I screw it up as often as I do, and I do apologize for that. But it is Mike Danna, according to his Pro Football Reference page. And Mike Danna needs a better 2025. So we'll talk about him a little bit later on. Also, some K-State to get to on today's program. Two guests, both of a K-State persuasion, a purple persuasion. Bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, Wildcat wrap-up this week with Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com. Tim Fitzgerald's on vacation, a well-earned week off after Big 12 Media Days. So we'll catch up with Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com, get his impressions from Big 12 Media Days, and chat about him with the latest K-State news and notes. And also coming in the 5 o'clock hour, our final piece of content from Big 12 Football Media Days, our final player interview, my chat with the former McPherson Bullpup, Cody Stufflebean, senior defensive lineman for the Wildcats. Bring that to you in the 5 o'clock hour. Plus, things that you have come to know and love from a Wednesday edition of the program. We'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Going to keep it real. We're scraping the bowl for headlines today, so it's going to be a fairly short segment, which may mean we do a longer Ask Me a Question segment in the 5 o'clock hour. We're going to do Ask Me Sports Questions in the 5 o'clock hour. Forgot to mention that. So bring your sports questions. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up. We'll have a guest hop in the booth for that. Plus, we want to hear from you as we go along throughout the program today. Want to hear from you on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Also, want to hear from you in the YouTube stream, on the chat. We have a live chat. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, you can interact with yours truly and your fellow listeners. If you are not watching the show on YouTube, give it a shot today. It's hot outside. You're indoors. Throw it on the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. The number of subscribers keeps on ticking up. We're getting closer and closer to that stretch goal of 800 subscribers, upon which time me and Brendan will arm wrestle live during an episode of the show. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not yet. And jump on into the chat. It's an active chat today already. Appreciate that. Christopher's in. Vance, hello. Mark H. and Ryan and Tyler, and I think I saw Trevor. I did. So appreciate all of you who are already in the YouTube chat today, and looking forward to hearing from more of you throughout the program. Hop on in. Again, the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. One other piece of business before we start. We've been giving away tickets to see Old Dominion at the Jura Amphitheater in Bonner Springs on July 25th. I guess that'd be next Friday now. I've got one more pair of tickets to give away to that show in Bonner Springs. So if you want to go see Old Dominion, you got one more shot to win a pair of tickets. Be listening for your cue to call. National League beats the American League in a swing-off last night at the All-Star Game. The National League blew a 6-0 lead. And so the game goes to a swing-off. They put this in the collective bargaining agreement in 2022, that instead of playing extra innings at the All-Star Game, the game, if tied, would conclude after 9 innings, and you'd get a swing-off. Each team, each manager would pick 3 players, and each of those players would get 3 swings. You either hit a home run with your swing or you don't. And at the end of 3 rounds, whoever has the most home runs wins the game. I assume it would have continued into some kind of overtime. I don't know if there would have been more hitters, different hitters. I don't know how deep the lineup had to go. Each manager, Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone, had picked their 3 guys apparently ahead of time. The National League had to sub in Kyle Stowers of the Marlins for Eugenio Suarez of the Diamondbacks after Suarez got hit in the finger with a pitch late in the game. Nice going, Shane Smith. First All-Star game and you're injuring guys. Come on, man. Don't throw inside the All-Star game. But they went to a swing off, and I don't think the vast majority of the people at Truist Park knew it was coming or understood quite how it was meant to work. They put the Fox broadcast and Joe Davis over the public address to explain how it was all going to work. And I admit, the traditionalist in me rolling my eyes a little bit. Oh, boy, here we go. Here's more non-baseball to decide a baseball game. And then it ended up being a lot of fun. And you could tell it was fun because the players were having fun. And look, that's the thing about the All-Star games, right? If they're going to be exhibition games, and they are, like, we can all bemoan an era that no longer exists in which the All-Star game mattered, in which there was a distinction between the leagues, in which the players were competitive with each other, in which Pete Rose would run over Ray Fosse and ruin his career to try and win an All-Star game, in which, this is true, you can look this up, the black players in the National League took it super personally because they felt like the American League was, shall we say, a little less friendly towards the integration of the major leagues in the 1940s and 50s, and proceeded to beat the hell out of the American League for the better part of 2 decades. It used to matter. Yes, that's absolutely true. This was before my time, but if you know me, and we've been friends long enough, I think, at this point, you know that there are things about baseball that were the way they were before I ever was born, never mind became a baseball fan, that I miss. I do miss there being a distinction between the leagues. I do miss the All-Star game being the only chance you got to see the best of the American League play the best of the National League, unless you somehow got a dream matchup in the World Series. I do miss that. I do think that was special. I do think that was unique. But times change. And that's not what we have anymore, right? There's no distinction between the American and the National League anymore. Once we got rid of the DH, that was the end of that. The American and the National League have no distinction. They may as well be the exact same. It may as just well be an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference for how much distinction there actually is. There's not even a geographic distinction, obviously. It's more like the NFC and the AFC in football. So if it's not going to be important, it may as well be fun, right? And that's what the swing off was. The swing off was fun. The players were into it. The participants were into it. You had everybody out front of the dugouts rooting their guys on like little kids. That's fun. I am all for fun. There are a lot of fun players in Major League Baseball right now, and it is fun to see them having fun. I am okay with it. I was prepared to hate it. I was prepared to think it was going to be stupid, and it wasn't. It rocked. My only gripe I got 2 gripes with the swing off. One of them was we didn't exactly see superstars involved in the swing off. When the American League hopes are down to Jonathan Aranda, who's having a very nice season, but is nobody's idea of a marquee name. That kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it. Like, imagine if that had been Aaron Judge, right? Problem is, Aaron Judge was on an airplane by then. I guarantee you he was on an airplane by then. Shohei Ohtani was not even in the same zip code as Truist Park by the time we got to the swing off. That's just the way it goes. Hold that thought, though. I have a follow-up on that. So that was the one thing I didn't like about it. The other thing I didn't like about it is that Kyle Schwarber, who hit 3 home runs on his 3 swings and won the swing off and thus the game for the National League, he got the game MVP. Come on, man. You can't give the MVP to the guy who won batting practice. You can't do that. Give it to somebody who did something in the game. It should have gone to Pete Alonso, who hit the 3-run home run off of Chris Bubic and gave the National League at the time a 5-0 lead. It should have gone to him. You can't give the MVP to a guy who won at batting practice. That was lame. Anyway, I loved it. It was one of many things I actually liked about last night's All-Star Game. Number one, it was a good game. National League took a 6-0 lead. American League reeled them back in. And it was also pretty cool that the Royals All-Stars played a role. Well, Chris Bubic, unfortunately, played a role in the National League getting to build their lead as big as it got. But the other three Royals All-Stars were instrumental in the rally. Maikel Garcia stole a base and then advanced to third on a throwing error by Rockies catcher Hunter Goodman, and that allowed him to score on Bobby Witt Jr.'s RBI groundout. And then Bobby Witt Jr. doubled and scored the tying run in that 2-run ninth inning. So the Royals offensive players were in the middle of that 6-run comeback, one of the largest comebacks in All-Star Game history. In fact, the largest, I believe, or would have been had the American League won anyway. Carlos Estevez threw a scoreless inning, too. Finished up with 98 at the knees for a strikeout. That was fun to see. Good to see that from Carlos. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Royals being in the middle of the excitement of what was a compelling 9 innings of baseball. Something else I loved, and I told you I was going to love it because I've seen it in a game, watching it in person. And look, guys, if you're not won over by the automatic ball strike system after last night, I don't know what to tell you. It's so good. We got it. We got to have it by Friday. Major League Baseball resumes the season on Friday. We got to have it. We got to have it. It's so good. It's so streamlined. It adds an element of drama. Teams do not feel particularly inclined to abuse the privilege. There were a lot of borderline pitches that didn't get challenged. It's not going to be a continuous flow of challenges. You only get a couple of them in a game. I think it was 3 per side. You really got to use them wisely. But, man, you didn't enjoy in the ninth when it looked like Edwin Diaz had missed with that 0-2 fastball to Randy Arozarena, but Diaz started walking off the mound and tapped his head because he knew he got the corner, and indeed he had, and the inning was over. And everybody got to see the graphic up on the screen and everything. That was great. It works. It's really good. Embrace new technology. The ABS system. It is going to be a huge positive for baseball when we finally get it installed, hopefully at least by the start of next year. But what's the excuse? Get it in by Friday. Let's play the rest of the year under those rules. The other thing I loved, and this is the traditionalist again in me talking, it was so nice to see the players wearing their own team's uniforms instead of those hideous uniform sets that we've seen the last few years. That's what an all-star game should look like. Baseball's the only all-star game that gets it right. And then it didn't get it right for a few years, so they could try to sell more jerseys, more merch. But they got it right this year, and thank goodness for that. So there was a lot to like about last night. I didn't like the hats. The hats look stupid. The hats look like the Cybertruck of hats, the Pontiac Aztec of hats, like a stupid panel in the front and stitching. They look dumb. They look dumb. I read a report today where it's a prototype and they might be moving towards some new hat technology. Don't mess with a good thing. Those look stupid. Those hats, once I heard somebody refer to them as the Cybertruck of baseball hats, I couldn't unsee it. Very stupid looking hats. The colors were really nice. The colors popped, but the designs were stupid. Once again, we didn't see enough of the starters in the game. Like in the second inning, we're already getting Jason Adam versus Ryan O'Hearn, former Royal on former Royal crime, in the second inning of an All-Star game. That'll make you roll your eyes. But then again, from the American League perspective, I think that was actually helpful because the American League fans did a bad job picking their starters, right? Like, Javier Baez, okay. Jacob Wilson, yeah, sure. A guy having a good half year. It's a great half year, but come on. That's who you want starting an All-Star game? Javi Baez? Okay, sure, man. You know why that was good for the American League? Because in the ninth inning, they got good players to the plate. They got to have Byron Buxton taking it bat. They got to have Bobby Witt Jr. taking it bat. Stephen Kwan drove in the tying run. He's a verified star in a way that, like, Javier Baez at this stage in his career really isn't, or whatever. So I actually think that worked in the American League's favor, getting the starters out early, because American League fans, I think, do a worse job of picking their starters than the National League does. Like the National League, in their ninth inning, they'd have Brendan Donovan taking it bat. And Brendan Donovan's got a great glove. And as a hitter, did I mention he's got a great glove? That guy had to take a crucial at bat in the 9th inning of the All-Star game. Nah, man, can't be that. Don't give me that. So I want to see more of the starters, but I think we have a path towards returning to that. And it would take some convincing, because I'm sure Aaron Judge probably enjoyed getting to leave the city of Atlanta probably around the 7th inning of last night's game. I bet he was showered and dressed and out of there. Ohtani, Lindor, some of the other starters, those guys, as soon as they could get out of Dodge, they were out of there. I'm sure that's the case, and I'm sure they like that and appreciate getting an extra evening, get on a flight, get back home, sleep in your own bed at 2 a.m. I'm sure they appreciate that. But hear me out on this. Apparently, Little League rules for re-entry are in effect for the All-Star game. Did you guys know this? Because I didn't know this. I had no idea that re-entry was a rule in the All-Star game. So the National League only had 2 catchers on its roster. They had Will Smith of the Dodgers, Hunter Goodman of the Rockies. They put Hunter Goodman in, I think, in the 5th inning. Hunter Goodman took an at bat, flew out to center field. And then in the 8th, James Wood pinch hit for Hunter Goodman. James Wood, notably, not a catcher. Nobody else on that roster was a catcher or even catcher adjacent. But nobody in the broadcast booth seemed to be freaking out that Dave Roberts had just removed his last catcher from the game for a pinch hitter. And sure enough, in the top of the 9th, Hunter Goodman was back behind the plate. So you're telling me that we have re-entry rules for the All-Star game and we can't take full advantage of that? How much better is the 9th inning of a close All-Star game if at that point we can say, all right, Shohei Ohtani, we know you've been cooling your heels in the National League dugout since your 2 at-bats in the first 3 innings. Get loose, because you're going to bat in the 9th. And, oh, by the way, if we go to a swing-off, you're in that too. I know you can't make players do this stuff. I'm sure there's legalese in the collective bargaining agreement or whatever. But you want to make the game more compelling at the end, you tell everybody, no, you stay in uniform, you hang around until the final out is recorded, because you might be coming back in. So that the All-Star game isn't decided by the Brendan Donovans of the world, and we actually get it decided by the guys the fans want to see. Although, again, like I said, it kind of worked in the American League's favor. They got good players to take their 9th inning at-bats instead of Javier Baez and Jacob Wilson. They got stars to take their at-bats instead of guys who won the fan vote. That worked out great for the American League. But if we've got re-entry rules for the All-Star game all of a sudden, let's use them. Let's use them. I'm all for it. I have no problem with that. Get a pinch hitter in, put the guy back into the field, or pinch hit, guy plays a few innings in the field. Let the middle innings be for the Hunter Goodmans and the Zach McKinstries of the world. And then 8th and 9th inning, get me the studs. I want the best players deciding the game. I want the best players in the game to decide the game. And the manager and all the players, they know who those guys are. So if you're asking me now to fix the All-Star game, there it is. I fixed it. Re-entry rules all the way around, and tell the big stars, hey, you're not leaving. You're not leaving till the 27th out. We might need you. We might need you for the swing-off, pal. Other than that, I loved it. I did. I thought it was a good All-Star game. I thought it was compelling. I thought it was fun to watch. I thought that the broadcast, the stand-up to cancer that they do every year at the All-Star game is always an emotional period of the game. The tribute to Hank Aaron at the end of the 6th inning, some selective editing on Vin Scully's call of the 715th home run that I thought was interesting. Some selective editing there. What adversity did Hank Aaron face? When we're talking about the adversity they faced, what adversity was it? Can we put a name to it? Can we actually talk about the adversity, the difficulties faced by Hank Aaron as he chased Babe Ruth's record? Can we put a name on that, or is that not okay anymore? Other than that, though, it was a really cool tribute. It was really well done. I'm sure it played well in the stadium. The firework out to left center field where the home run actually went, super cool. And I'm glad they did that. I'm glad that Major League Baseball took time to acknowledge not just a historic figure in baseball history, but honest to goodness, Hank Aaron is a historic figure in American history. So I thought that was really cool. Just enjoyed the night. It was a good night and a celebration of baseball, and it ended with something fun. And for an exhibition game, if you have fun and you celebrate the game, that's what it's all about. We're going to take our first time out here at 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, the Royals have reacquired Adam Frazier. Huh? That was my reaction. That may have been your reaction too. We'll talk about it. Plus, it's Mike Danna days until Chiefs kickoff. We'll get to that later this hour. Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com going to join me in the 4 o'clock hour. Cody Stufflebean joined me from Big 12 Media Days. We'll play that in the 5 o'clock hour. It's a jam-packed show today, and we're so glad you're here on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting rolling on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Some reaction from the YouTube comments on the All-Star Game last night. Andrew says, I think they should take 2 weeks off Major League Baseball, play the All-Star Game and the Saturday in between, so you'd have more player participation, more pitcher participation. That would, both of those aspects would certainly be good for the game. It's tough to take a big chunk out of the regular season. They've been resistant to do this for a really long time because then you either have to start it earlier or end it later, and you got a lot of bad weather cities in Major League Baseball. That would make that tough. Then you're asking for more games in March in places like Cleveland or Minnesota or Denver or New York. More games in late October into early November in some cold weather cities. So I understand why there's resistance to that, but that would be one way, certainly. Like, you want to see the best players at the end of the day. And we don't always get to see the best players for a variety of reasons. Like, I'm never going to knock a player like Jose Ramirez or Julio Rodriguez for saying, hey, look, my body's not right. I owe it to my team to rest through the All-Star break. Like, I understand that happens. Injuries part of the game. But yeah, they're scraping the bowl for pitchers. Adrian Morejon out there for the National League. Him and Randy Rodriguez. Maybe rando middle relievers having 40 good innings shouldn't be all-stars because neither of those guys had it. And what was trending towards a comfortable National League win ended up being a lot narrower there at the end. So that's I like the thought. I like the idea of encouraging more star player participation. I just don't think you're ever going to get Major League Baseball to take, even with an Olympic year in 2028, I just don't think you're going to see Major League Baseball say, yeah, we're going to take 2 weeks off in the middle of the summer when we have everybody's attention Like, this is the time for baseball to grab people's attention because you know what's next week all across this sports-loving nation of ours? Training camp. This is the time for baseball to be interesting and get people's attention. Arguably, this is a bad time for the All-Star break. So I just don't think you're ever going to get them to agree to take 2 weeks off in mid-July and lose the everyday focus of the American sports consumer right before the NFL ramps up training camp. All right, the Royals made a trade today. Adam Frazier is back. This stunned me. I didn't believe it was true or could be true. I had to double and triple check what I was seeing. But indeed, the Royals have reacquired the 33-year-old utility man Adam Frazier from the Pittsburgh Pirates in exchange for Cam Devaney, who had been on the active roster for like close to 2 weeks and never got on the field. And that and the fact that he's enjoying his breakout season in the minor leagues at age 28 should probably tell you all you need to know about Cam Devaney. Like, I'm not rooting for him. I'm not telling him to go pro in something other than sports, follow your dreams, all that good stuff. But it's pretty clear the Royals did not view him as a guy who was really going to impact the major league level. And truth be told, again, if you are just now breaking out in AAA at age 28, chances are what that makes you is a really good AAA player. The Pirates, of course, not going to cost them a whole lot to find out because they're going nowhere. They can give Cam Devaney a bunch of at-bats, and maybe he is Mike Aviles. Like, maybe it is a late 20s breakout. They've happened before. They're just not the kind of thing you bet on or not the kind of thing you don't move a player to try and improve your big league roster for. But did the Royals really improve their big league roster today? Adam Frazier, you'll recall, was a Royal last year. And he played 104 games for the Royals last season. He played 5 different positions in the field, both corner outfield spots, first base, second base, and third base. Also DH'd. And had the worst year offensively of his major league career last season. He hit just 202, a 576 OPS. It was a no-brainer to let him walk in the offseason, not pursue a reunion. He's been a little better in Pittsburgh this year. 78 games. He's hitting 255, a 654 OPS, still well below league average. 7 steals, but he's also been caught 5 times. Only 3 home runs, but he's never been a power guy. Playing a lot more second base, really kind of a regular second baseman, though he has seen some time in the outfield corners for Pittsburgh. I am of the belief that this is strictly a vibes transaction for the Kansas City Royals. Somebody's got to be your 26th man on the roster. Somebody's got to be the guy like Cam Devaney was for the last week and change. Somebody's got to be the guy you forget is on the team, right? Somebody's got to be the guy who shows up to the ballpark, gets his BP in, and eats sunflower seeds and chews gum and comes up with home run celebrations and pats everybody on the back when they come off the field and is okay not getting in the ball game every day. Somebody's got to be that guy. And if that somebody happens to be a well-regarded clubhouse presence and good guy that people seem to like, so much the better. That's Adam Frazier. I think he's back because he's a good guy. And he doesn't mind being the guy who might not play for a week and a half. And because he's a veteran and he's got that capital V veteran, capital P presence, maybe he gives you a knock or two in the pinch from the left side. Maybe he does. I can say this, too. I do not think this bodes particularly well for a return to the major leagues this season for Michael Massey. I don't have an update on his injury status, but my belief is that if they made this move for a veteran second baseman, because that's Frazier's best position, then I don't know that we're going to see Mass back in the bigs anytime real soon anyway. I shouldn't rule him out for the rest of the season. Only a doctor can do that. But I would think that would mean we're not going to see Michael Massey back real soon. So that's what you have here. It's a vibes transaction. I don't think trading Devaney is this grave sin or massive mistake by the Royals organization. 28-year-old at AAA. Guys get to be 28 at AAA for a reason. And if Frazier is well received in the clubhouse and people are happy to have him around, then it's fine. If he's a 26th guy, it's fine. So I was not super upset to see the trade. And I was surprised, certainly, and I think it would be a bit of bad news if we all of a sudden start to see a bunch of Adam Frazier at bats. Christopher suggests in the YouTube comments, I think this actually makes John Rave the 26th man. I don't know. They seem fairly committed to giving John Rave and Nick Lofton an extended look at second base and left field. And at this point for the Royals, you might as well, right? You might as well give those guys an extended run and figure out whether or not you've got to make substantial upgrades to those roster spots, or if maybe Nick Lofton's exit velocities actually do turn into a little bit more offensive production. Lofton had coming off a really good homestand. Keep running him out there for another week. What's the harm? Rave, same deal. His at-bats are starting to get better. There's an adjustment period for everybody at the major league level. I think Frazier's brought in to be that guy. I would be really surprised. Let's say this. I would be really surprised if Adam Frazier's your starting left fielder on Friday in Miami. I would also be kind of upset. Like I'd rather them give those at-bats to John Rave just to see, right? But like right field spoken for. They're going to keep going to Jack Caglione until he gathers steam. I think Nick Lofton has earned with the last homestand another week or two of consistent at-bats. Leave John Rave in left field. The other thing, too, is he's actually a left fielder. He can actually play the position. He's a real outfielder. Let him play out there. So, no, I don't think they brought in Frazier to be an everyday guy. I certainly hope they did not. He has been more productive offensively than Rave and Lofton have this season. That is true. But I still don't think that's what they brought him in to be. I think they brought him in to be 26 get man. They brought him in to be the chairman of vibes. They brought him in to be a guy who everybody will smile when they see. And that's fine. A back end of the roster transaction is not typically anything to get real wound up about. Now, if Adam Frazier's the only piece the Royals have added, and we're sitting here at the trade deadline July 31st, and the Royals don't do anything but add Adam Frazier, boy, you think you've heard me angry before. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we're going to pivot hard into Chiefs football. The countdown to kickoff reaches number 51. Mike Danna next on 580 WIBW. 346 on 580 Sports Talk. Countdown to Chiefs kickoff continues. We're 51 days away from the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil. We've been counting down every day to week 1 of the 2025 NFL season for the 3-time defending AFC champs. Number 51 for the Chiefs is defensive end Mike Danna. And it was a letdown of a season last year for Danna. He got the 3-year contract from the Chiefs before last season, and I think everybody agreed it was a good piece of business. It certainly didn't represent an overpay for a player who had, in a limited role, been pretty productive and, in fact, had enjoyed his best season as a pro in 2023, his first as a full-time starter, when he racked up a career-high 6.5 sacks. It was a solid year for Mike Danna. And he got the 3-year contract, and then it was underwhelming last year. Only played in 13 games, starting 12, and registered just 3.5 sacks, his fewest in a season since 2021. He did force a pair of fumbles, and certainly not suggesting that he was a negative contributor for the Chiefs, but it wasn't as positive as expected. And if it felt like he just didn't make a whole lot of impact on a regular basis, NFL Next Gen stats can back that up. There were 110 qualified defensive linemen last year in terms of pass rush snaps in which the player rushed the quarterback. 110 players had enough stats to qualify for the league leaderboards. The Chiefs only had one player in the top 25. That was Chris Jones, naturally. He had the 23rd best pressure rate among those 110 players. The only other Chief that ranked in the top 60, in the top half of the league, was George Karlaftis. 52nd best pressure rate in the league. He piled up a lot of pressures last year. He also had a ton of pass rush snaps. In fact, he had the second most pass rush snaps of any player in the NFL. Only Zach Allen of Denver had more. So the number of pressures looks good, but pressures as a percentage of number of snaps, kind of in the middle of the league for Furious George. The Chiefs' third best pass rusher in terms of pressure rate was Turk Wharton. He's not on the team anymore. Charles Omenihu was 72nd out of 110 pass rushers, again, coming off of an injury. Mike Danna was 87th out of 110 qualified defensive linemen in pass rush pressure rate. 87th in the league. That's not going to cut it. Chiefs need better from Mike Danna in 2025. Frankly, they need better from Charles Omenihu, and they need better from George Karlaftis. Here's the reason for optimism that I will give you that the Chiefs pass rush group as a whole can be more productive. I think they need to lean on their depth a little bit more in 2025 and rotate guys a little bit more often than they did in 2024. Mike Danna played 58% of the snaps last season. Karlaftis ended up playing, I'm trying to find the number of Pro Football Reference. Karlaftis played 83% of the snaps. That is a lot to ask for a guy whose pass rush ability is predicated on his energy and his motor more than on his power or his finesse. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you don't get better taking your best players off the field, typically. But I think there's a deeper stable of pass rushers, a healthy Omenihu for a full season, joining Karlaftis and Danna and Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and now Ashton Gillotte in the mix as a guy that I think they're going to trust a little more as a situational pass rusher, as defensive end number 5. I think they might trust him in pass rush situations a little bit more than they've trusted like Malik Herring over recent years. So I think they'll be able to go 5 deep outside this season. That will give Danna and Omenihu chances to kick inside where they've been productive as pass rushers and where they'll benefit from more one-on-ones on the interior because Chris Jones is getting double teamed all the time. But I think more depth leads to fresher legs. That's usually the case. And I would like to see the Chiefs rotate guys a little bit more because I think that's how you'll get even better production out of Karlaftis. That's how you'll get better production out of Omenihu, who, again, coming off of a serious injury last year. I think he'll be better this year. but he's also a veteran player with an injury history now, where you might get more out of him if you use him less. Danna might be the same kind of player. You can work Gelati and Felix Anudike-Uzama in, play them maybe a little bit more, see if Felix gives you some first-round talent flashes this year. See what Gelati gives you, another guy with a high motor in pass rush situations. Depth, I think, will help this pass rush group, and it will help Danna to be more productive, have a bounce-back year in 2025. And he needs one. I think of all the guys returning to this roster from 2024, it's him on defense and Isaiah Pacheco on offense, naturally, who are, and it's probably unfair to say this about Pacheco because you could just as easily say, well, Rashee Rice could use a bounce back and Hollywood Brown could use a bounce back for the same reasons. Injuries interrupted their seasons. But I think those are the two guys that if they get back to previously established form, you start to feel a whole lot better about the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025. Not that you don't feel good about them already, but you feel even better if you can get both of those guys. I think Danna's the most important guy on defense to get back to that previous form. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll wrap up this 3 o'clock hour. Couple of listener thoughts as we wind down this 3 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk. From the text line, 785-272-9429. Text from the 785 points out Whit Merrifield being a late bloomer for the Royals. Said they didn't trade him when he was really worth something. I sure hope they didn't trade away a guy like that. Talking about Cam Devaney, another potential late bloomer, without giving him a handful of at-bats. Merrifield was only a year older than Devaney is now when he got his major league call-up. Difference between Merrifield and Devaney, other than Merrifield had the decorated college career at South Carolina, Kansas City was the only organization that Merrifield had ever been a part of where the Royals picked up Devaney off the minor league scrap heap 2 years ago. He had reached AAA with the Milwaukee system, and he was there for a year and they cut him loose. And then he was with Omaha last year and he was not on anybody's radar. And he's had a great year this year. And I don't want to take that away from Cam Devaney and wish him all the best with whatever opportunity he gets in Pittsburgh. But I don't think this is another Whit Merrifield. And I think if the Royals thought it was another Whit Merrifield, they would have gotten him to the big leagues a lot earlier. Like, it's not like Nick Lofton's been tearing the cover off the ball, or Michael Massey was tearing the cover off the ball. If they had been getting reports from down in Omaha, hey, hold on a second, this kid is blistering the baseball, and we were calling him a kid, he's 28. This guy's blistering the baseball. We got to get him to the bigs. I think they would have, and they would have played him. The fact that they kind of called him up out of necessity, and then he sat on the bench and watched Tyler Tolbert play, and I think that tells you what the Royals thought of him, and that's not what they see in Cam Devaney. Andrew also points out in the YouTube comments there's some rumors floating around social media today that the Chiefs are, after the Trey Smith deal got done yesterday, now turning their attention to a long-term deal for George Karlaftis, and that may be the next thing that gets done. I typically, as a rule, don't give a ton of credence to rumors from people who don't publish under their own names on social media, but that would make a lot of sense because that's what Brett Veach has said all along. He's looking towards getting Trey Smith done, and once that was done, Karlaftis and McDuffie were the next priority. So that would track, certainly, with what Brett Veach has previously established. Coming up next hour, we're talking Royals at the break, plus Ryan Gilbert from GoPowerCat.com. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon in the capital city. My name is Dan Lucero. Grateful to be with you on this hump day on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and live on our video stream. Catch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, or on our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you're listening to the show, whenever you're listening to the show, thank you so much for being a part of the audience today on 580 Sports Talk. We got some breaking Chiefs news. Justin Ross has been cut. The Justin Ross hype train has finally skidded to a final stop. He has requested his release, and the Chiefs have granted it. They will waive Justin Ross. That will be the official terminology. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network reporting it first. Gets the Chiefs down to, I believe, 89 on their 90-man roster. They could add a street free agent or another undrafted free agent to their list if that's what they wanted to do. But so ends the career as a Chief of Justin Ross. 6 catches in 3 seasons with the Chiefs. And look, I understand why it was so tantalizing. I really do. I got it. And there's a part of me that wanted to see it work because his body type, physically, he was just different from any other receiver that the Chiefs had. And I don't think we've still really ever gotten to see Patrick Mahomes work with a fully realized version of that big physical outside receiver. We saw a taste of it with DeAndre Hopkins last year, but then he got dinged up and he wasn't himself in the playoffs. We've never seen Mahomes with a guy quite like that. And it was easy to see Justin Ross and dream on that. But the injury that he suffered in college, it was an injury to his spine, if you remember. He just wasn't the same athlete after that. Just wasn't quite the same guy. The Chiefs gave him chance after chance after chance and just never did catch on. So there's one fewer wide receiver in camp for now, competing for what we talked about earlier this week, probably just one roster spot at wide receiver. I think they'll only keep 6. 5 of them are spoken for. Justin Ross, no longer a part of that. Wish him luck, but that's the end of the Justin Ross experiment in Kansas City. So some breaking Chiefs news to start this hour of 580 Sports Talk today. Still to come on this hour of the program. Going to talk about the Royals at the break. What's worked, what hasn't, and the most important players, the 2 most important Royals in the second half. The boys in blue are going to make a real playoff push. The 2 most important players in that are who? I'll tell you here in just a little bit. Also, later this hour, Ryan Gilbert, GoPowerCat.com. is going to join me. Ryan Gilbert is subbing in this week for Tim Fitzgerald, who is taking a well-earned vacation. See, the beat guys all take a week off or so after Big 12 Media Days. Some of them do anyway, if they have the luxury to do it. Like Tim Fitzgerald taking a week off. Michael Swain's on his honeymoon, didn't join us this week. But Ryan Gilbert, obviously, we've had him on the show here before. He'll do a great job on Wildcat Wrap-Up as we talk about the latest K-State news. Gonna see what all there is to the Ryan Davis hype. There's always one player, and this is true of every team in college football, but there's always one guy who you come away from media days and everybody's talking about. And when they talk about him, they kind of get a gleam in their eye, a little twinkle when they talk about the work they've put in, the ability they flash, the impact they're about to have in 2025. For KU this year, that was Emmanuel Henderson, the transfer from Alabama who's going to play wide receiver. He was that guy for KU. For K-State, it was Ryan Davis. So we're going to talk to Ryan Gilbert about Ryan Davis. We'll talk to him about some other stray thoughts from Big 12 Media Days. And speaking of Big 12 Media Days, our final interview from Big 12 Media Days will air today here on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, my chat with Cody Stufflebean, the former McPherson Bullpup, and senior defensive end for the Cats. That's coming up later on the show. Also coming up later on the show, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Old Dominion in concert. Old Dominion is on their world tour. The How Good Is That World Tour with openers Ernest and Red Farron, July 25th at Azura Amphitheater in Bonner Springs. And I've got one more pair of tickets to give away. Those tickets, if you won a pair and have not received them yet, should be coming your way later this week. We do have them in hand. We just got to get them emailed out. Our promotions person just has to get that, just has to press send. But we've got them. We've got your info. We'll get you those tickets well ahead of the July 25th concert date. That is next Friday. I got one more pair of tickets to win for a lucky listener out there. So be listening for your cue to call to try and win those tickets. What is wrong with you? Also coming up this hour as well. And I want to hear from you. Hop on into the chat if you're watching on YouTube. We've had a good YouTube chat so far today. Looking forward to seeing more of you jump in. Again, YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Go check it out if you haven't before. Go subscribe if you haven't before. Just tap that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you a thing. And enjoy the show live, enjoy the video feed, and enjoy the chat. Enjoy the interaction, not just with your host, but also with your fellow listeners as we go along on 580 Sports Talk. You can also, of course, watch archives of all of our video content. That's every show we've done going back to, I think, Halloween of 2022 was when we started doing this. If you want to see what we were talking about on 580 Sports Talk, or if you want to see what Jake and Fulton were talking about on Mic'd Up in December of 2022, you can at the YouTube channel. If you want to see me do old immaculate grids, you can do it on the YouTube channel. Our NFL draft coverage from years past. All of our archive stuff. Sometimes it's fun to go back and into the stacks and check out old shows. You can do that on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also do it on our podcast page over at 580wibw.com. And you can do it if you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Search for us on Spotify, 580 Sports Talk. Follow us, rate us, and review us. As long as that review is going to be 5 stars. If you're going to leave us a 4-star review, why you being a hater? Why you got to hate on me? Us. But go check us out on Spotify. Lots of ways to interact with the show. You know, we're live from 3 to 6, but we are available 24/7 on the YouTube channel, on Spotify, at 580wibw.com. And you never have to miss a minute. You never have to miss a What Is Wrong With You. You never have to miss an interview. You never have to miss a take. It's all there for you. I'll start the hour by talking about the Kansas City Royals. The All-Star break has 2 more days. It used to only be 3 days. And maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I remember the All-Star break only being 3 days and everybody resuming their season on the Thursday, 2 days after the All-Star game. I'm sure it got collectively bargained in at some point. The players were like, hey, we want another day break. And the owners were like, all right, we'll give you that. Understandable, fair. So the All-Star break's 4 days now. Royals will resume their regular season on Friday in Miami against the lowly Marlins. Although the Marlins are a little better than I think most people expected they would be. Hell, they're ahead of the Braves in the American League East standing, or in the National League East standings. So they're not quite the pushovers that they have been in recent years, but still a team that if the Royals have playoff aspirations, they ought to go take 2 out of 3 of on the road. The Royals are 47-50, 4.5 games out of a wild card spot in the American League. Tied on percentage points with Cleveland, half a game behind the Angels and Twins, a full game behind Texas, 3 games behind Tampa Bay, and as I mentioned, 4.5 behind Seattle at 51-45, currently holding the final wild card spot. As we look back at the first half for the Royals, there has been plenty to like. Bobby Witt Jr. continues to cement himself as one of the truly elite talents in Major League Baseball, though he may not reach the 9-10 WAR heights of last season. He'll still end this season as one of baseball's most valuable players. He's gotten even better with the glove this year, one of baseball's leaders in outs above average across all positions, and the fact that he's doing it at shortstop is super valuable. So another Gold Glove is probably coming for Bobby. He continues to be outstanding at the plate and on the bases, and joy to watch every single day. Bobby Witt Jr. is that dude. Vinny Pasquantino has been solid after a slow start and is submitting a season that could go down in the end as one of the best of his young career. He's only 5 home runs away from a new career high in that department. And while we're still chasing the high of his 72-game debut in 2022, Vinny has established himself as a consistently above-average offensive player who is quite good with runners in scoring position, though those numbers, like the rest of his teammates, have taken a bit of a dip this year. And Maikel Garcia has broken out, making his first All-Star game this season. Average has dipped a bit. He went a little cold to start July, but he's still hitting .297 to lead the team with an .808 OPS. He's got 36 extra base hits, 18 steals, plays a fine third base, and he looks like the guy over at third for the foreseeable future. Though I do wonder if a move presented itself for the Royals to go get a third baseman, like Eugenio Suarez of the Diamondbacks, Ryan McMahon of the Rockies. There are going to be some third basemen out there that are available to acquire. I do wonder if Garcia could take to second base, and if with more time over there, ultimately he'd be better. He's a natural shortstop, and you can tell he's a natural shortstop watching him play third base. And there's an open debate. You know, what position are guys better at when you move them off as short? Are they better at third? Or are they better at second? A lot of guys, the answer is third base. Manny Machado certainly has been better at third base since they moved him off a shortstop as a young player. But I would wonder if the opportunity presented itself to go get a third baseman at the deadline, if the Royals would be willing to move Garcia to second base. I think they ought to be. So that's been real good. So, too, largely has been the pitching. Chris Bubic, another Royal with a breakout season, his first All-Star appearance. Noah Cameron has been a revelation in his first 12 big league starts. Seth Lugo's been steady as she goes, fronting the rotation now in the absence of Cole Reagans. His ERA's dropped down to the mid-twos, even if the advanced metrics don't like him nearly as much. He's pitched, I think, better and better as the season has gone on. And the Royals' bullpen has steadied. Carlos Estevez has locked down the 9th inning. You certainly feel better about the Royals' bullpen at this stage this year than you did about it at this stage last year. Now, of course, the Royals added to the bullpen last year. They went and got Lucas Erceg, and they went and got Hunter Harvey. That didn't work out, but they went and got him. I wouldn't be surprised. The Royals, I do think, are going to be buyers at the deadline. Barring a just horrid first week out of the All-Star break, at which point they do themselves a disservice if they didn't pivot. I think if they even just tread water the next week and a half, they're going to be buyers. And I would think they would target a relief arm, at least one, maybe from the left side, because outside of Zerpa, there's really nobody all that trustworthy from the left side of the bullpen. Sam Long's been terrible. Daniel Lynch is hurt. Evan Sisk hasn't been back up for whatever reason. I don't know if he's been injured down in Omaha or what, but they could use another left-handed arm. Wouldn't be surprised if they go try and find one. Certainly they need a bat. No, Adam Frazier can't be the answer to that question. Certainly they need one more bat. But the bullpen's been solid. The starting pitching has been good. They've had one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. It's the main reason why, despite all their offensive struggles, they're still just 3 games under 500. What hasn't been good in the first half, you haven't quite gotten the Salvador Perez and Jonathan India you've expected. Though there have been some positive recent developments from both Salvi and India, whose on-base percentage, at the very least, has been an upgrade. That's what was hoped for from Jonathan India, that to be better at getting on base than anybody the Royals had batting leadoff last year, and he has been. 331 on-base percentage this year. That is not only an upgrade, it's borderline solid from the leadoff spot. You'd like better, but we know what worse looks like too. So it has been an upgrade, though maybe not as much as hoped for. Salvi's start of the year was really disappointing, but he's warming up with the weather, and I think there's a decent chance we get that version of Salvador Perez coming down the stretch. The biggest thing that has hurt has been the lack of production from the bottom of the order. We were afraid it might be the case, and it has been worse than anybody could have imagined. MJ Melendez hit his way to Omaha. Hunter Renfroe hit his way to unemployment. Michael Massey did not build on his successes of 2024. Success has been, shall we say, intermittent for the likes of Nick Lofton and John Rave and Freddie Fermin. And Jack Caglione has not lit the world on fire since being called up from AAA. So 6 through 9 continues to kind of be a bottomless pit for the Royals lineup in the same way that it was last year. Well, last year it was really 5 through 9. The other thing, though, I mean, we've talked at length about the lineup and the difficulties there. But the other real disappointment for the first half of this season is how much the injury bug has eaten into this team's pitching depth. It was my biggest concern for the Royals last year, and then it never came into play. Everybody stayed healthy, made their 30 starts, and the Royals went to the playoffs. This year, we have seen Cole Reagans hit the injured list. Seth Lugo missed a couple of starts. Michael Lorenzen is now on the injured list. And again, oblique injuries tend to be tricky ones for pitchers to navigate. I would not be surprised if that is a lengthy absence for Lorenzen, which is a shame because he had been pitching really well. Hunter Harvey's loss in the bullpen has hurt, as has the loss of Daniel Lynch, the injury, and then the subsequent ineffectiveness of Sam Long. You've stressed your left-handed depth where you felt really good about your lefties in the bullpen, and now you don't feel so good about your lefties. The Royals thought they had assembled some starting pitching depth with the returns of Kyle Wright and Alec Marsh from injury. But we're still waiting for Alec Marsh to get on a mound, and Kyle Wright has had setbacks in his rehab. We are very close, if not like on the cusp, of a Rich Hill start for the Kansas City Royals, or a Dallas Keuchel start for the Kansas City Royals. And that's not where you want to be if you are a playoff contending team. That's not a scenario where you want to be contemplating, man, can we squeeze a couple of starts out of Rich Hill? Can we get it? Can we get even just like 2 trips through the lineup from Rich Hill every 5 days? Even if it's just 4 and fly, not even 5 and fly. Can we tread water with that? It's not what you want. It's a great story. Be a fun, immaculate grid player for the Royals rows or columns if Dick Mountain does indeed get to take the big league mound for the Royals. But it's also, it isn't what you want. It's not an ideal scenario. You'd have much rather had Kyle Wright ready to roll, or you'd much rather had Alec Marsh back in play, or you'd much rather have had a young guy like Luwinder Avila, who's also been hurt, or Chandler Champlain, somebody like that really take a step forward in the minor leagues, and it's really just been Noah Cameron. So that's where you come to the 2 most important guys in the second half for the Royals. The 2 guys that have to produce if the Royals are going to make a real run at this. And I don't think either of these names are really going to surprise you. I don't think either of these are really off-the-wall names. The first is Jack Caglione. Lengthening the lineup is so important for the Royals. They have just got to get something from Jack, even if it is just the occasional power. Even if what we see from Jack Caglione isn't much different than what we saw from, like, can he reach 2024 MJ Melendez levels the rest of the season? That would be appropriate. That would be acceptable. I think the Royals could live with that. It has to be more than a 459 OPS. It has to be more than an on-base percentage below 200. He's not striking out obscenely. He's not completely overwhelmed at the plate, but the book is out on him, and until he makes the adjustment, starts laying off those low pitches, he's going to keep getting those low pitches and either rolling over on them or swinging and missing at them and getting himself into bad counts. He's got to make the adjustment, and he has got to contribute. The Royals need him. We're now 35 games into the big league career, and look, I'm not expecting him to flip a switch in the second half and be the best version of himself, but it has to be better than this. It has to. And the other most important guy for the Royals in the second half is Cole Reagans. And I don't know how many starts the Royals are going to get from Cole Reagans in the second half. Rotator cuffs are tricky. A couple of weeks ago, the news was that Reagans got really good news about the rotator cuff strain that he's dealing with, that he can get back to a throwing program, that hopefully he can rejoin the Royals pitching rotation at some point, if not at the trade deadline and near enough to it that it's almost like adding a frontline starter for the final 2 months. But the reason the Royals have had trouble pulling themselves out of skids and spirals this season that have sunk them below 500 is because they don't have that guy once every 5 days who is pitching like an ace. They've gotten good work from Bubic. Great work. They've gotten good work from Lugo. Michael Wacha's had his moments. Noah Cameron's got an ERA in the low twos. But Cole Reagans is the ace. And you've got to have an ace. If you're going to make a run, if you're going to play well over 500 ball in the final 2.5 months, and that's what it's going to require the Royals, you've got to have a Clint Eastwood on his horse every 5 days. You've got to have the guy who's giving you 6 shutout innings, who's giving you 7, who's pitching into the 8th, who's giving you a chance to win every single time. I'm not sure what Cole Reagans is physically capable of, but if he's not physically capable of giving the Royals that over the final 2 months, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to get to where they want to go. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, it's What Is Wrong With You on 580 WIBW. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? What is wrong with you? Brought to you by our guy, Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan. Mo Winkle. Give him a call today in case you end up in somebody else's What is Wrong With You story. The number to call, 785-273-1572. Joining us for What is Wrong With You today is Brendan Dworzinski. Brendan, hello.
Howdy, folks.
Who's the most important Royal in the second half?
The most important Royal in the second half, I am going to go with... He's not yet on the team.
Oh, so a trade deadline acquisition.
A bat at the deadline.
Big stick for the middle of the order.
Yeah.
Take some of that heat off of Jack Caglione.
Yes.
Any final thoughts on the career of Justin Ross as a Chief? He was waived today.
I wish I had not wasted so many minutes of the one life I have talking about a guy who peaked as an 18-year-old.
6 career catches as a Chief.
That's about 4 more than I thought he had.
Our current What Is Wrong With You champion is the big law biter, the young woman who was a summer associate at a major New York law firm, but was terminated after she was going around biting people at the firm.
Heyo.
All summer long. Just biting multiple people. The big law biter. That's our current champ on What Is Wrong With You. My story today, say this in your best National Treasure Nicolas Cage voice. This story is called, I'm Going to Steal the Stone of Destiny. The Stone of Destiny, also known as the Stone of Scone, is one of the United Kingdom's most
Stone of Scone?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's one of the most significant historical objects in the United Kingdom. It was originally used in the coronation of Scottish monarchs at Scone, a few miles up the River Tay from Perth. It resides in Perth to this day at the Perth Museum, where a 35-year-old man wearing a kilt was arrested when he broke the glass surrounding it. The incident occurred on the 12th of July. A man was arrested. Perth Museum was evacuated as a precaution. There was no damage to the Stone of Destiny or any other artifacts on display. Tourist L. Alvarez told the BBC, it's honestly surreal, like something out of a historical drama or an action film.
Yeah, this is like a cross between National Treasure and Night at the Museum.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. The guy wearing the kilt, that is very funny. I got to be honest here. I say this as someone who's a lover of history. I don't think UK royalty has any leg to stand on when it comes to artifacts being stolen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think you guys get to complain.
It's a good point.
To be completely frank with you.
I just love that it's called the Stone of Destiny. I swear to God.
That rules.
It sounds like a Jonah Hill movie or something. Like a Jonah Hill, Will Ferrell collab.
This is a Tenacious D sequel.
Yeah, that's what the Pick of Destiny and then the Stone of Destiny. Yeah, that's why it sounds familiar. Yeah, guy just broke the glass. It's a big old stone. Like he wasn't gonna walk out of there with it.
You need some more. You need stronger glass.
It's not Excalibur. There's not like a sword in the middle of it. You pull it out and you're the king.
That'd be awesome too, though.
That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, the guy tried to steal the Stone of Destiny. Hey, your story today.
All right, our second story in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by our guy Ryan Mowinkle, RyanMowinkle.com. We got a good old fraud story from Florida.
Love him.
A little Florida fraudster. Building inspections, they got to be done by licensed professionals, Dan. However, down in Miami-Dade County and Broward County in South Florida, hundreds of inspections may have been performed by a man without proper credentials. Enrique Fernandez Jr., a South Florida man, has been accused of using false credentials to submit as many as 724 inspection reports. Now, Fernandez does deny these allegations, but he's facing $3.6 million in civil fines. No criminal charges have been filed yet. So Local News 10 out of Florida conducted an investigation into Fernandez Jr. back in 2024 after it was discovered that several large building projects had undergone plumbing, electrical, and mechanical inspections that were then signed for with the name Enrique Fernandez with license number 21218. I would like to point out, Dan, this is Enrique Fernandez Jr. The guy with the permits is his deceased father, Enrique Fernandez Sr. And this dude now has for years just been pilfering off his father's name, saying, yeah, it's fine. We're both Enrique Fernandez, technically.
It's a family business. I'm just inheriting the family business.
724 inspections by a guy who is not allowed to do this. The actual holder, again, was Fernandez's deceased father. News 10 TV provided evidence that Fernandez Jr. renewed his dead dad's license and changed all the details in the system so the credentials were delivered to him. He then found work with private engineering firms conducting building inspections for the government, signing off on numerous reports, and that includes working on a 9-story building.
So he's just rubber stamping these even though he doesn't know anything about this stuff.
Doesn't have a clue. A board, this is great. So a board inspector told the news station, quote, he's done a job he wasn't qualified for. Fernandez disagrees and continues to say he's not to blame, saying, quote, they have the wrong Enrique Fernandez.
It's not me. It's another guy, coincidentally with my name, who coincidentally had access to my dead dad's credentials. It's making me look bad. Making all the Enrique Fernandezes of the world look bad.
Yeah, if you're an Enrique Fernandez, better watch out.
Why? What did he gain? What are you going to gain from it?
Dude,
like
he probably got paid $3.6 million at least.
Yeah,
a boatload of money.
I guess if the money's good, man, maybe I should be a building inspector.
Or lie about your dad doing it.
That one wins today. That's extremely funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a really funny story. Pretending to be your deceased old man to just keep it in the family business. Does that beat Big Law Biter?
They have the wrong Enrique Fernandez. I'm going to say yes. This is so funny.
I love a good fraud story, man. I can't resist.
They're so good. The Floridian ones are awesome. We've got fake dentists. We've got fake Botox places. We've got an entire army of guys named Enrique Fernandez. So many good ones.
Keeping it in the family. That's going to be our winner on What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by our buddy Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan Mo Winkle.
Mo!
Visit his website, Ryan Mo Winkle. That's MOHWINKLE.com. Any last words, Brendan? Not like...
No, you put me on the spot. For the first time in my life, I'm speechless.
We'll talk to you soon, all right, man?
All right, we'll see you guys soon.
That is Brendan Brzezinski. That is What Is Wrong With You. Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline this week for Wildcat Wrap-Up by Ryan Gilbert. Once again, pinch hitting for Tim Fitzgerald. Ryan Gilbert covers K-State for GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and joins us here for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Ryan, how did you enjoy Frisco, Texas, and Big 12 Media Days?
It was good, man. It was a lot of fun. I do think I need to maybe work for a little raise with Fitz. I mean, this is the second time, I think, in 3 weeks I've filled in for him. So I'm busting my butt filling in for the boss. But, yeah, Dallas was good. Obviously learned some stuff. I'm sure we'll break into that here on the show. But, yeah, it was always a good time to be out at Media Days.
You a Whataburger guy or an In-N-Out burger guy or not a burger guy as far as the regional fare down there in Texas?
Well, I'm a big burger guy for sure, but I would pick In-N-Out. I'm not a big Whataburger guy. I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but I'll go In-N-Out.
Yeah, I'm team In-N-Out all the way. I tell people all the time, it's all about the context. And my mom is from California, Southern California, spent summers out there as a kid. And that was like the treat, was get In-N-Out burger before it even expanded outside of California. So I will always be team In-N-Out. Ryan Gilbert, what did you take away? What was the most interesting thing you heard or saw from the K-State contingent at Big 12 Football Media Days?
Well, if you're looking for maybe one particular player whose name got brought up a lot that you probably weren't expecting, that was Ryan Davis, defensive edge rusher, right? I mean, Kansas State is very deep defensive end, and Cody Stufflebean was a representative for Kansas State at Big 12 Media Days, and I think he talked about him. Kleiman talked about him. Ryan Davis' name was brought up a number of times as somebody that's going to play. And Kansas State's very deep, like I said, at defensive end. So that's an important position to rotate guys in and out, and that's probably the most important position group on the whole team, to keep guys fresh and rotating in and, making sure you're giving it your 100% every play. And so, a couple other guys probably had their names floated around a little bit, but Ryan Davis, just sort of the overall off-season, expectation or what we thought after last year, definitely seems to have been somebody that's climbed up the depth chart.
I'm glad you brought him up, because I was going to ask you about him, because he was certainly a guy. I mean, Chris Kleiman brought him up multiple times unprompted. Certainly heard about him from Cody Stufflebean. We're going to play our interview with Cody later on today's 580 Sports Talk. What about Davis gives him the opportunity to be a breakout player this year? And what kind of role do you think that comes in? Is he somebody who can be like a Brendan Mott and be a 3-down guy in that 3-3-5? Or is he somebody who might make more of an impact as a pass rush specialist this year when they go to 4-down linemen on some of the 3rd-down stuff?
Well, I don't want to put anything past Ryan Davis, because Brendan Mott, you mentioned him, and nobody thought he would turn into the player that he was. Now, it became clear that he was a special player pretty quickly, right? But I mean, this was, I think, a 2-star unranked guy out of high school. And so you never know what somebody's going to be capable of. Like I said, though, it is a very deep position, and there's been some chatter about Kansas State going to maybe a 4-man front, given how many pieces they have on the defensive line. We'll see if that comes into fruition. Without a doubt, you're going to see it at some point. Maybe it depends how much you see it. But, yeah, Ryan Davis, I'd have to pull up a quote from Chris Kleiman if I could find it, but raved about him and just said how explosive he was. And, there is no off button on him, right? He's going. His motor's great. He always powers through. And so he's going to be a very important piece. But I think if you lose Ryan Davis, if you lose Cody Stufflebean, there's just a number of edge rushers that can step in that I think are going to be more than capable. So it's a very deep group that's able to probably withstand an injury or two.
Well, let's then set aside the vet, Stufflebean, and let's set aside Davis, who we've talked about. Who's your guy in that defensive end pass rusher mix? Who's the guy you've got your eye on and you believe could have a similar breakout in terms of production that Brendan Mott did last year?
Well, I know you said to set aside the vets, but Chidi Obiizor, he's been in the program for a number of years, but that's the guy that can get to the opposing quarterback. I'm really intrigued, though, to be quite honest, about Jayshon Ross coming from Alabama. And a player coming from Alabama shouldn't need much of an endorsement from anybody. But this was a guy Kansas State recruited pretty hard in the high school ranks. Obviously, he goes to Bama, and now he transfers and he's at Kansas State. So, this is a player that there's so many guys at this position. I'm not sure how many snaps he's going to get, but even if it's 10 snaps a game, the explosiveness from Jayshon Ross, man. I mean, you can go down the line. Jordan Allen, I know, is probably going to be in there. A game at West Virginia, Jordan Allen had last year. He had I think a sack and a couple big plays, and so there's a lot of different playmakers, and I think that's okay. I think there might be some comfort with that, where you look at last year, okay, it's Brendan Mott, and then there's a big drop off. Well, I think now you've got some more stability with different pieces you can move around there.
Ryan Gilbert is part of the outstanding GoPowerCat.com staff and joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat wrap up here this afternoon on 580 Sports Talk. It's strange that with regards to the secondary for K-State, they lost 2 NFL draft picks and another couple of senior starters, and yet it does not feel like a position of great concern. And I think that's a testament to some of the recruiting they've done there. It's a testament to the work that Dan Malone and Joe Klanderman have done coaching those positions. How do you feel about the secondary mix, and who do you think are going to emerge, particularly as the starting cornerbacks? A lot of hype about the sophomores, Zayshawn Rich and Donovan McIntosh. I know Justice James has been around the program. They brought some people in from the portal where they've had some success. But who do you think has the edge to be the starters at the cornerback spots for K-State?
Yeah, Justice James obviously, has probably a good chance to do that. But you look at the bowl game last year, and obviously Rich and then McIntosh. Kleiman talked about that. And Kleiman's huge on just guys getting experience. You look at there's countless examples of Kleiman's time in Manhattan where he's I think the Iowa State game in 2020, he'd rather play a game shorthanded where he could have easily just forfeited. He'd rather play a game, get his guys experience. And so, they got that in the bowl game. Rich and McIntosh I'm talking about, but Justice James we'll see there. Rowe out of Oklahoma. There's a number of guys again that could probably step up, but James obviously I think might have a good spot there. But yeah, Rich and McIntosh I think are in that mix as well.
It feels like there hasn't been a lot of offseason chatter about the transfer from Arizona, Gunnar Maldonado, who looks ready to step in at safety alongside VJ Payne. VJ was at Media Days. I talked to him about Gunnar Maldonado. He's really excited about having another experienced veteran to play alongside at the safety spot. What kind of upside is Maldonado going to bring to that safety spot?
Experienced player, tenured, smart. Maldonado's played, I think, close to 40 games. Collegiate games. He played 41 collegiate games. And so he's obviously got that experience there. And I think he only played, 3-4 games in 2024 due to an injury that ended his year. So does have to stay healthy, but you're looking at a guy that this staff has raved about, has been there, done that. This is his third stop as a Wildcat. He was at Arizona and Northwestern. So staying true to that mascot, but this is an experienced player that, obviously maybe gets a little bit overlooked because, VJ Payne is the fastest player on the team. He's at Media Days, but Maldonado, if he's healthy, can be a strong force in that secondary. And Marquise Spiegel, you lose him, and, obviously Jacob Parrish. And it's interesting, Kleiman mentioned 3 NFL players that departed from last year's squad. I heard him say that on the podium at Media Days. It was with one of my colleagues. I looked it up, and I guess Keenan Garber technically is in that group. He's on an NFL roster, I think, went to the Vikings. So there is a lot of talent, NFL talent lost in that secondary. Obviously, Parrish and Spiegel are the big two, but there's going to be open spots, and K-State's going to need leadership, seniority. VJ Payne obviously provides that as a guy who's been in the program for a while, but Maldonado fits that as well with 41 games played in his career.
Our guest is Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com, joining us for the Wildcat wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's shift to basketball recruiting, Ryan, as it still seems to be some intrigue, maybe some international intrigue surrounding Kansas State and their ability to fill out the final spots on their men's basketball roster. What's the latest you can tell us about what direction K-State might be looking in as far as pulling in an extra player or two for Jerome Tang's roster this coming season?
Well, over the weekend, there was some chatter about Bryce Dessert, who's a big man, maybe coming in, and sounded like maybe the ball was getting rolling a little bit. But as of yesterday, he's now signed to play overseas internationally, so that ship has sailed. But it sounds like they're going to try to go after a guard and a big. I don't have any specific names for you that I can, give out with 100% certainty and confidence. But the latest on Tyreek Smith is that it's probably not sounding great for his eligibility. So if you can't get him, you're obviously going to have to add a big fella. And then there has been some chatter about, maybe another guard coming into this mix as well. So roster is far from finished. I know it's into June now. And, it's you're kind of getting well into the off season, but you go back to, Tang's first season, Keontae Johnson didn't get added until August. I think Coleman Hawkins this last off season was probably an early June, late May guy, if I'm not mistaken. So it's late. You obviously would like to get that roster finalized, but you got a couple of Germans. You got the German Elias Rapik and Andre Kostic out of Serbia as well. They're not here yet, so guys are still going to be trickling in. It's not like they're going to be exactly jumping on a moving train. You would like to get guys in sooner than later, but obviously they're still trying to turn over every stone they can to, like I said, look for, I think, adding a big and a guard.
So if Tyreek Smith does not get his waiver, and I know that Kansas State has operated for a long time under the expectation that he would, first of all, do you have any insight as to why that would not be the case, if there's been a ruling or something there that has shifted his outlook? And if it has, and he does not get the waiver, how many roster spots then are in play for K-State? Can they add more than 2?
Well, that's a lot. There's a lot there. With Smith, and this is kind of hearsay, but I believe it was maybe denied, and they've just been appealing that and hoping to, not find a loophole, but work something out, a workaround to try to get Smith back. But it's not sounding great. I think initially was denied or was going to get denied, and I think they're trying to come up with something else. Don't quote me on that, but not sounding great for Smith's eligibility is the bottom line. You look at Stephen Osei, JUCO guy. He's not going to play this year, and so he's injured. So that puts you basically at 12. If Tyreek Smith can't go, you're at 11. So that's why you're probably looking at another guard and another big to get you up to 13. I know the roster scholarships, and they can do 15. I don't believe K-State will go up above that 13 mark like they have, in the past. That's what it's been. That's probably what's going to stay like. But yeah, that's why you're probably looking at a guard maybe and a big, just because Osei is obviously going to be out for the year with an injury. And then Smith, if he can't get eligible, that's going to open up the door as well for another roster spot.
Ryan Gilbert covers Kansas State athletics at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber, and you'll get the inside info as soon as it's out there about K-State basketball recruiting, the continued efforts to build a football recruiting class, and, of course, it'll get you revved up for the upcoming start of the football season. Ryan, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for the time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
That is Ryan Gilbert. We will take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll wrap up the 4 o'clock hour of the program. Our thanks again to Ryan Gilbert and GoPowerCat.com for joining us, pinch hitting for the vacationing Tim Fitzgerald on the Wildcat wrap-up. course, if you missed any part of that interview or any of our content, check out the podcast page at 580wibw.com or follow, rate, and review us on Spotify by searching for 580 Sports Talk. One more hour on today's program. We'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines, a couple of Kansas City Pro headlines today, a Chiefs and Royals headline that we've already visited today, but we'll revisit in a quick hitter fashion on headlines, because if we didn't do that, there wouldn't be a whole lot else to talk about today. There's not a lot going on in the sports world today. Not much to give you in headlines. It's a slow Wednesday. Baseball's off. What are you going to do? Also in the next hour, Cody Stufflebean joined me from Big 12 Football Media Days last week, and it is our last player interview from Big 12 Football Media Days that we have not played for you here on 580 Sports Talk. So excited to play you my conversation with the man they call Stuff. I don't know why they don't call him Bean. You know, Stuff and Stuff is a little more. He's a defensive lineman. It works. It works a little better. So my chat with Cody Stufflebean, the former McPherson Bullpup, coming up in the final hour. And I'll take your sports questions in the final hour as well. We'll do an Ask Me Anything Sports Edition. Ask me any question about sports you want in the YouTube chat or on the text line, 785-272-9429. But before that, going into the hour, I got 2 more tickets to give away to see Old Dominion on the How Good Is That World Tour with Ernest and Red Farron on July 25th at Azura Amphitheater in Bonner Springs. Caller number 4 to 785-272-9429 wins the tickets. 785-272-9429. You're going to see Old Dominion if you're caller number 4 on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour of this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero, flying the plane solo this afternoon for just one more hour together here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on video, our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. You can also check out the program there. Again, however you are consuming 580 Sports Talk today, glad to have you as part of the audience. Thanks for being here and killing some time in the 5 o'clock hour here on this Wednesday on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up this hour, I'm going to take your questions. And I know I asked for sports questions, but even if they're just sports-adjacent questions, I'm happy to answer them. Look forward to doing AMAs with you guys every now and again. And what better day to do one than the day after the All-Star Game, the deadest day on the sports calendar, the day after the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. So I'm looking for your questions. Drop them in the YouTube chat. If you're watching the show on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the name of the channel. Get your questions into the chat. You can also text the show with your questions to me, 785-272-9429. Put on my Answer Man hat, which I suppose would make me the Answer Dan, and I will answer your questions. Again, sports or sports adjacent. You folks usually come up with really good questions. One time somebody asked, what's your favorite thing to eat at a ball game? That's a sports adjacent question, but it also led to, I think, a 5-minute dissertation on the appropriate hot dog toppings. So we're going to have some fun with the AMA coming up a little later this hour. Get your questions in. Again, YouTube chat, 580 Sports Talk, or text the show, 785-272-9429. Also still to come this hour, my interview with Cody Stufflebean from Big 12 Football Media Days. It's our last Media Days interview that we have not played live for you here. Well, not live, but we have not played for you on the show on 580 Sports Talk. And excited to bring you that interview that I did with Stuff last Tuesday in Frisco, Texas. But let's go ahead and move to the headlines because there's just not much in the way of sports headlines today. So we're going to fly through these. And I'll just be honest with you, there's just not a whole lot going on in the world of sports. So we'll start with the two headlines germane to the Chiefs and Royals today because the Royals and the Chiefs each made roster moves today. First, the Kansas City Royals have reacquired veteran utility man Adam Frazier from the Pittsburgh Pirates in exchange for Cam Devaney. It'll be a 26-man roster spot, even swap, as the Royals will add Frazier to their 40-man and their 26-man roster. The 33-year-old left-handed hitting, right-handed fielding Frazier appeared in 104 games for the Royals last year and wasn't particularly good in any of them, though he did have a couple of big hits, had that big home run against the Angels to win a game early in the season. That was off of Carlos Estevez, come to think of it. One of his 4 home runs he hit last year. It was a career worst offensive season otherwise for Frazier as a Royal. He has bounced back this year, still not even close to an average offensive performer, a 654 OPS, but he's hitting 255 with a 318 on base. And, well, that's a little bit more than what the Royals have gotten from their bench to date. Add to that, he's a really well-liked clubhouse guy, and you can tell he made an impression in his 1 year as a Royal. If any of you caught Vinny Pasquantino's X-post binge, used to call these things Twitter binges, but Twitter's dead. It's X. It's all happening on X. Talk to an anime girlfriend on X. Chat with our chatbot on X, but be careful. Vinny Pasquantino was on X during the Home Run Derby and responded to somebody saying that there should be a good piece of hitting derby by saying it would be called the Adam Frazier Derby. So obviously Adam Frazier made an impression in that Royals clubhouse in his 1 year there, and he's being brought back essentially to be a good clubhouse guy and the 25th or 26th guy on the roster, and I'm fine with it. I don't think trading Cam Devaney is going to come back and particularly haunt the Royals. I don't think he's the new Mike Aviles. I think he's a 28-year-old having a good year at AAA after not having good years the last 2 years at AAA. The Pirates seem not ready to give him a big league chance either. They've optioned him to AAA. So I don't think it's that big a deal. A small transaction, not going to cost him a lot in terms of prospect capital. It's not going to cost him a lot in terms of money. And people like Adam Frazier. He's a good dude. And he's a left-handed bat, and he can play a lot of positions. And you can do a lot worse, I think, as your 26th man. And the Royals have for a lot of this season. So Adam Frazier back with the Royals. Chiefs also made a roster move today. Justin Ross has requested and received his release, been placed on waivers by the Chiefs. I thought, and many of you thought, and a lot of the football world thought that Justin Ross had next after his freshman year at Clemson. He looked like the next great wide receiver. Not just good wide receiver. He looked like the next great wide receiver. Suffered a spinal injury, missed his entire sophomore year. Just hasn't been the same physically since. He's been with the Chiefs the last 3 years. In 2023, he played in 10 games, even starting one, and caught 6 passes for 53 yards. Those are the only catches of his NFL career. He appeared in just 2 games last year, had 1 target, and did not record a reception. Ross now takes himself out of the running for a roster spot at wide receiver. As I spoke about earlier when this news broke, Tom Pelissero had it first from NFL Network. The Chiefs, probably only have 1 roster spot at wide receiver up for grabs if they only keep 6, which feels right. They've already got 5 guys they know are going to break camp: Rice, Royals, Smith-Schuster, Brown, and Worthy. So 1 roster spot up for grabs, and Justin Ross certainly would have had an opportunity to stake his claim, but instead he has requested his release, and the Chiefs have granted that. So they're down to 89 on their camp roster, and Justin Ross is free to seek an opportunity elsewhere. So those are the transactions made by the Kansas City, the residents of the Truman Sports Complex. Next headline, we'll stay in the NFL from ESPN. Broncos reach deal with first-round pick Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas, agreeing to his rookie contract with Denver, leaving just 1 first-round pick unsigned as we prepare to open training camps across the league in this coming week. Shamar Stewart, the defensive end from Texas A&M, who walked out of minicamp effectively with the Bengals because he wasn't happy, or his representation wasn't happy with language in his rookie contract regarding the potential to void certain guaranteed money. There has still not been a resolution there, and Shamar Stewart sounds like, by all accounts, he's very prepared to miss the start of camp, which would leave both starting edge rushers, or projected starting edge rushers for the Bengals, Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson, both absent for the start of camp. And that's not what you're looking for if you fancy yourself a Super Bowl contender, and especially not if you're trying to bounce back after a terrible year on defense with a brand new defensive coordinator. Not the tone you want to set. But now Shamar Stewart's the only one. Jahdae Barron signing his rookie deal with the Denver Broncos today. Probably starts opposite Patrick Surtain, the second on the outside. It's a really good defense. I know that's not exactly breaking news, but Denver's got the best defense in the AFC West. The Chiefs have certainly some standouts on the defensive side of the ball. I still think Denver's probably got the best defense in the AFC West. And I think they got better in the offseason with the additions of Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. They're going to be a bear to deal with on the defensive side of the ball. Next headline, let's swing back to baseball, shall we? From The Athletic, sale of Rays expected to be final by September. Team likely to stay in Tampa area. Stu Sternberg, current owner of the Rays, has reached an agreement with a group led by Jacksonville developer Patrick Zalupski, and the Rays will sell for $1.7 billion. This is a team without a stadium, playing in a minor league park this year in one of the smaller markets in the league, with one of the smaller payrolls in the league year over year, just sold for $1.7 billion. For comparison's sake, when Sternberg bought the team, he bought them for $200 million. So the sale has been agreed to in principle, is expected to be completed as soon as September of this year. Reportedly, the preference of Zalupski and his ownership group is to keep the team in the Tampa-St. Pete area. Of course, there have long been calls and desires on the part of the Rays to get a new stadium. And it sounds like they would like to be, or this new ownership group would like to be in Tampa. Tropicana Field, which is not in use this year because of the damage it took in the hurricane last year or earlier this year, is in St. Petersburg. They would like to be in Tampa with their stadium. That would seem to make the most sense. But they're going to need a new one. Like, no question about that. I don't know. Actually, I haven't checked in a while if there is any renovation happening at Tropicana Field. If there is ever a plan to bring baseball back there, I would imagine they'd like to have it in use for 2026. They're going to have a new stadium built by then, and they'd like to not be playing in a minor league park, I'm sure. The Rays have also, by the way, speaking of that minor league park, Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, they have gotten clearance from Major League Baseball to host playoff games there, raising the possibility that a World Series game could be played in front of a crowd of 10,000 people. The Tampa Bay Rays, everybody. But they're worth $1.7 billion. Apparently the Twins are too. Rob Manfred was talking. He did some press stuff earlier this week at the All-Star Weekend or All-Star Week, and said that the initial proposed buyer for the Twins, the Pohlad family's looking to sell. There aren't that many family-owned baseball teams anymore. Like, you still have that in football. You still have the Hunts, the Rooneys, the Maras. You still have those families who've held teams for a really long time. You don't really have that in baseball anymore. Like, you have the Steinbrenners, who've had the Yankees. You got another generation of Steinbrenners on that team. Unfortunately, you have the Monforts in Colorado with the Rockies. But you don't have, like, the Pohlads have owned the Twins for a really long time. They bought them from Clark Griffith, who owned them when they were the Washington Senators. That's how long ago the Pohlads have bought this team. But they're getting out, and their initial buyer is Justin Ishbia, who is the brother of Matt Ishbia, who owns Phoenix Suns. And apparently he had a purchase lined up, but the Pohlads got some cold feet. So Ishbia went in on purchasing a bigger stake of the Chicago White Sox, with Jerry Reinsdorf preparing to sell that team eventually. So the Twins lost their buyer, but Rob Manfred mentioned earlier this week that there is a buyer. They do have something in place, and they expect a Twins sale to be done fairly soon, and for a similar value, the $1.7 billion, probably what the Twins are valued at as well. Again, owning a sports team, it's really good business. If you can buy one, if you've got the money to buy one, you're going to turn a profit when you sell it. That's for sure. Let's do two more headlines. One from ESPN today. NBA exploring expansion, but nothing predetermined, Silver said. That is extremely funny because everybody knows, it is an open secret, it is the most obvious thing in the world, that when the NBA expands, and they will, to 32 teams, the teams are going to Seattle and Las Vegas. Like, this is not rocket science. There are not many other cities out there who have put together like ownership groups or are really stumping. This isn't like baseball where you've got groups who are really trying to we want baseball in Nashville or Portland or wherever it is. No, everybody knows the NBA is going to right a wrong and give a team back to Seattle, and then they're probably going to Vegas because they are right now the only major professional sports league without a team either in Vegas or planning to move there. Though I don't think the A's are ever getting to Vegas. I'm just going to tell you right now. That's kind of my conspiracy theory. I don't think the A's are ever getting to Vegas. I don't think a park's ever getting built. I don't think John Fisher has the cash. But either way, everybody knows it's going to be Seattle and Vegas, so it's very funny to hear Adam Silver talk about nothing's been predetermined in one way or another. They're going to 32, and they're both going to be in the Western Conference. They're going to be Seattle and Vegas. Spoiler alert. When it's announced, try to act surprised. One last headline from golf.com. Scheffler couldn't care less about being the favorite. If you have not watched Scottie Scheffler's pre-Open Championship press conference from Ireland earlier this week, in which he is as honest as any athlete in any professional sport I have ever heard, talking about how unfulfilling winning is, which is an amazing thing to hear come from not just a professional athlete's mouth, but the best in his sport to say that winning is not fulfilling, that his life is not a fulfilling life, that the most he can enjoy a win is for like 2 minutes, and then it's on to the next thing. It's wild to hear somebody admit that. And I don't think it's because Scotty Scheffler is wired wrong. If anything, I think he's got his priorities pretty well in order. That his family and his faith are things that he prioritizes, and that golf is the thing that he does, but not who he is. I think that's a pretty good work-life balance for Scotty Scheffler, especially when you can be the number one player in the world doing that. We appreciate our work-life balance kings on this program, our Scotty Schefflers, our Nikola Jokic's, people like that. We appreciate those people. I do anyway. But anyhow, Scotty Scheffler is the favorite at the Open Championship, its final major of the year in professional men's golf. It'll be held at Royal Portrush in Ireland. It is effectively a home game for Rory McIlroy, who is the number 2 player in the world and the second betting favorite. Gary Woodland not in the field for this one. His major championship exemption from his U.S. Open title in 2019 has expired. He did not qualify for this year's Open Championship. But the tournament starts bright and early tomorrow from Ireland. Call it a hunch. I like Tommy Fleetwood. I think it's going to be somebody from the United Kingdom who wins this thing. I'm going to go Tommy Fleetwood. He's never won on the PGA Tour. He's been tantalizingly close. He contended last year until the wheels fell off on the back nine. He might have even been the 54-hole leader last year before Brian Harman or before Xander Schauffele pulled away. Maybe that was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago that Tommy Ladd was in contention, and then Brian Harman blew the doors off of everybody at the Open Championship. He's contended there before. He's playing some good golf. He's been close to winning this year. I'm going to go Tommy Fleetwood to win the Open Championship. Rory's going to give it a good run. Certainly Scheffler will be in the mix because he always is. But I'll go Tommy Ladd to take not just his first PGA Tour win, his first major championship at Royal Portrush. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll cut it short. We will continue to solicit your questions for Ask Me Anything. But when we come back, I asked Cody Stufflebean some questions, K-State defensive lineman at Big 12 Football Media Days. And that interview is coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. .525 on 580 Sports Talk. We have come to the end of our Big 12 Football Media Days interviews, the player interviews. We did some of them live over the course of Tuesday and Wednesday. Talked to Avery Johnson live, talked to Jalen Daniels live. We've heard from Des Purnell and Deshaun Hanukkah, the former Hayden Wildcats for K-State and KU, respectively. We also heard from KU's DJ Withers and Dean Miller. And we also heard from K-State's Taylor Poitier and VJ Payne. Today, it's our final interview that we have for you from my time in Frisco, Texas. It's from the former McPherson High Bullpup and current senior defensive end for the Kansas State Wildcats, Cody Stufflebean. Here's what Stuff had to say in Frisco. Our guest from Big 12 Football Media Days at the Star in Frisco, Texas is K-State defensive lineman Cody Stufflebean. Cody, how's your summer been so far, man?
It's been busy. We've been kind of, I don't know if you'd say rushed, but everything's kind of been pushed up going to play week 0. So it's kind of been a little different than the past that I've been here.
In what ways has it been different? Because, yeah, you're going into a week 0 game. That's a huge game, one of the biggest, if not the biggest games on the schedule against Iowa State. So how does that change your preparation and add more urgency to it?
Yeah, I think one of the things coaches wanted to focus on is for us to gain more muscle mass, really. So it's been nicer in that fact where we've been lifting more than we've been running. So that's been good. The conditioning quite hasn't been as tough as the past. So that's definitely enjoyable for me, I would say. I don't like the conditioning.
Do you feel a little – we've talked to your teammates, particularly on the defensive side, that's been a big focus, getting bigger, getting stronger, getting faster. Do you feel a little bigger, a little faster coming into this year than you have?
Yeah, I'd say so. This is definitely the most I've ever weighed, and my body fat percentage was decent when I first had my DEXA that was with the most muscle mass that I've had. So it's definitely trending in the right direction. And then hopefully after a good summer, kind of lean back down and be the best that I've ever been.
You're listed at 265. What are you at right now?
I'm right around 260.
Okay. And you're feeling good about your quickness, everything that you're going to need to do to be in the role you need to be on the defense?
Yeah, I'd say so. My miles per hour, my top miles per hour is still staying pretty consistent when I weighed less. So it's definitely nothing to complain about.
We're talking to Cody Stufflebean, senior defensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats. Some things changed as the year went on defensively last year in terms of, a few more on pass rush downs, few more four-man fronts. But you guys are still staying in that base 3-3-5. How is your role kind of changed? Are you really comfortable in the spot on the line they're lining you up in, all of those responsibilities as you go into another season?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it helps. You get to know, you've got to experience it for the past 3 or 4 years, and even in games, like the most high stressful environments, and you kind of get used to it. You know what to expect, and that kind of allows you to look at the offense, look at their alignment, look at the backfield formation sets, and kind of slows the game down for you and helps you know what to expect.
We were talking to Des Purnell earlier. He mentioned a couple of your teammates up front, guys that have an opportunity to really break out this year. Do you see around you a group of guys, young, hungry, increased opportunities this year? What have you sensed in terms of their improvement, their physical growth, in terms of how ready they're going to be for this coming season?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think the team as a whole has, like you mentioned, got a lot bigger and faster. So just being able to maintain that throughout the season, I think that would definitely help us with our strength as well.
We're talking with Cody Stufflebean. He's a senior defensive end for the Kansas State Wildcats, joining us here from Big 12 Football Media Days in Frisco, Texas. Austin Romaine, first team all-conference preseason honor for him. One of the top middle linebackers in the country last year. What has enabled him to kind of become that leader, that rock in the middle of your defense, and be a reason why you guys have a chance to have one of the best defensive units in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think all of our backers, especially him, do a really good job of communicating, especially to us up front. We rely on them a lot. If there's a check or anything, or they see something, kind of communicating it to us, and it helps us kind of all be on the same page and play fast.
How high is the ceiling for this defense? You've got, some talent back. You did lose some guys to the NFL in the secondary, but you've got some really young guys at corner people are really excited about. Experience at safety, lots of experience at linebacker, experience back up front with you and a bunch of other veteran guys. What is the ceiling, you believe, for this group?
We kind of break it down into Coach Klanderman has different sections where, like, red zone, third down percentage, turnover, stuff like that we track throughout the whole season. So just being able to be in the top 10 in the top categories in those kind of metrics, I would say, is something that we really strive to be, and that kind of helps you be successful. And we kind of saw it with Ohio State last year. They were in the top 10 in quite a few of those categories, and then even just the top 30. So you don't have to be amazing at all of them, but you definitely have to own some of those, and that's what we're kind of looking to do.
You guys obviously practice against an offense that has quite a ceiling as well, with some talented skill guys back. What's your impression of what you've seen? We'll start with Avery. What you've seen from him as he enters his junior season, his second year as a starting quarterback. What are your impressions of how he's leading, not just that offensive huddle, but really the team?
Yeah, can definitely see that he's a lot more comfortable this year. It's a lot more natural to him. Sometimes it didn't seem like his confidence was always there last year whenever we were doing some runs and stuff. But this year, like, he will openly speak out whenever he's seeing that the team is struggling here. So it's definitely reassuring when one of your top dudes is kind of correcting the team or like helping them achieve a goal. It's awesome.
What stands out about that group of skill guys when you do practice against them? What kind of defines what we're going to see from the Kansas State offense this year from a perspective of somebody who gets to look at them every day and try and stop them in practice every day?
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to see having a whole bunch of weapons, and it's not going to rely on one person. I think is the biggest thing this year. You're going to have to cover the whole field, so I think that definitely plays into our factor. Even when you have to account for a quarterback, it puts a lot of stress on a defense. And so that's something awesome that we have them can contribute.
We're talking with Cody Stufflebean, senior defensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats here from Big 12 Football Media Days in Frisco, Texas. Not only is it a big game to start the season against Iowa State, it's also in Ireland. So it's a really unique opportunity for you and your teammates. How excited are you to have that experience, to get to go to Europe? Is it your first time going to Europe?
Yeah, it is.
So how exciting is it to get that experience to go and play that game? And obviously the game is going to be, once you get on the field, it's a huge game. Mm-hmm. But just the experience of getting to do that with your teammates and play in a place where you probably never thought you'd play a football game.
Yeah, for sure. Especially even just going to Ireland. I don't know if that was kind of up on top of my bucket list or ever a possibility for me to go with me and my family. So being able to go and see them there and be with your teammates and people you've been grinding with throughout the summer to kind of build up to something. You don't have to wait for a bowl game where you've been truly grinding for 14 weeks and then you get to go. You kind of start with that. So just having the focus to go down there and take care of business. You
spoke to, obviously, the importance of being ready for week 0. You've got to replace some pass rush production this year as a team. Brendan Mott led the team in sacks last year, Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. You've got to, that's 8.5 sacks that walks out the door right there with one guy that you've got to find a way to replace. So how important is it from your perspective, the perspective of your fellow defensive linemen, that you know that you're going to be going up against a team that's physical in week 0, a very talented quarterback in Rocco Becht in week 0? How important, how much emphasis do you put on making sure that communication's right, you're physically right, and that you're ready to play as good a game as you can play in week 0?
Yeah, I think it all starts with the preparation, and Coach Kleiman always talks about finding your edge in the details. So we just really have to focus on that as we finish up summer here and then get into fall camp and then kind of build our routine as we start getting into the regular season.
A couple more questions for Cody Stufflebean, defensive lineman for the Kansas State Wildcats here from Big 12 Football Media Days. You're a McPherson Bullpup, proud McPherson High graduate. Did that school very proud in your time playing there, and now as your time as a Kansas State Wildcat. When you head back home to McPherson and it's mealtime, it's your first meal back home, where are you going? What's the spot? What's the order? What are you going to get that you miss that's not maybe in Manhattan, but you love going back to McPherson to grab?
I go to La Fiesta, and I get the Don Burrow burrito, and I don't know, it's one of those huge ones that takes up the whole plate. And I always get it in chicken and some queso on top. That's my favorite thing to eat.
Perfect. Who's the big rival for McPherson? What was the big rivalry football game when you were in high school?
Bueller.
Definitely Bueller?
Yeah.
What was your record against Bueller? Do you remember?
Never lost.
Never lost? 4-0?
Never lost. That's it.
That's one you remember. If you had been the other way around, you might have been scratching your head. But no, you remember you go 4-0 against your biggest rival for sure. Last thing, you certainly have one of the more unique surnames in all of college football. What is the worst joke anybody's made about your last name?
I think on a Twitter comment, somebody said it was a North Pole elf name. So I don't really know how to take that, but
that's strange. I don't know that I've heard that one before. Yeah, you've heard them all, but that's what happens when you play a lot of college football. When you're if you were ninth on the depth chart, nobody would be thinking of ways to poke fun at your name. Cody Stufflebean going to play a big part for this year's Kansas State defense on the defensive line, joining us from Big 12 Football Media Days. Cody, a pleasure, and best of luck to you in 2025.
Thank you very much.
Really enjoyed that chat with Cody Stufflebean at Big 12 Football Media Days. And if you missed that interview or any of the other interviews we did from Big 12 Media Days, they're all up. They've got their own posts on our website, 580wibw.com. Our Big 12 Media Days recap all our interviews, KU, K-State, our friends in the media, everything I got up to for 2 days in Frisco. It's on our website, 580wibw.com. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, I'm taking your sports questions. I want them in the YouTube chat. I want them on the text line, 785-272-9429. I want your sports questions. They can be general sports questions. They can be personal sports questions. They can be sports adjacent questions. But I want your questions. 785-272-9429. And in the YouTube chat, got some good ones already. Looking forward to seeing some more. We'll have some fun here on a Wednesday on 580 Sports Talk after this. All right, 5:39 here at 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero, taking you home solo on this Wednesday. And I want your questions. Sports adjacent. I want to take your questions here for the final handful of minutes we got together here on this Wednesday. Text line is open, 785-272-9429. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, you can drop them in the chat. If you're on the web browser or mobile device, you're logged in, put them in the chat. We'll take your questions. Got some good ones in so far. Looking forward to getting some more in. I'll start with a question I really don't have an answer for yet. Andrew asked who my preseason pick for high school football champions is going to be, who's going to win state football here in the state of Kansas. And I'll be honest with you, Andrew, I haven't started really digging in on high school football yet, so I couldn't give you a very educated guess. But I will give you this in 3A. I think it's going to be Andale Hayden in the final. And I don't mean to put pressure on Bill Arnold and the Wildcats just down the street here, but they're going to be really good again, like really, really good again. And Andale's going to be Andale. So Andale Hayden, lock it in for the 3A title. That's the best projection I can give you. Like, I'm sure Derby will be good in 6A, and Aquinas will be good again. All the teams you expect to be good will all be in the mix. But I'd be lying if I told you I was fully prepared for the upcoming high school football season. So I'll just give you that one. Hayden Andale in 3A. Vance asked, what's the hardest position to play in baseball? It's got to be catcher, right? I mean, all that gear, the physical demands. It's the only position that mandates that you squat the entire game. Just physically, it wears on you. It's why Salvador Perez, really any catcher that is able to catch effectively and be an offensive contributor to their team well into their 30s, those guys generally tend to be, if not all-timers, then really close. Like, you got some guys like Bob Boone or Jim Sundberg who hung around forever. And Yadier Molina hung around forever. You guys know my feelings on him. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but we can have that argument another day. Like Ted Simmons hung around forever, Hall of Famer. Gary Carter, Hall of Famer. Those guys, like, it is so demanding. It just wears on you. That's why so many of them end up late in their career moving to first base or not catching 6 days out of the week. But it's that position by far. It's catcher for sure. Jeffrey in the YouTube comments asked, how many baseball MLB ballparks have you been to? Which is my favorite, and which one has the best food? Technically, that's 3 questions, Jeffrey, but I'll answer them all because I like those 3 questions. I have been to, in not quite sequential order, I have to count Tiger Stadium. My parents took me there when I was, I think, 8 months old. Technically, that's my first major league game, corner of Michigan and Trumbull. I do not remember any of it because I was 8 months old, but that is where I saw my first big league game, so count it. Tiger Stadium, Detroit. Mile High Stadium in Denver, of course, where the Rockies played their first 2 seasons, and, of course, Coors Field. Then working west to east, I have been to the old stadium in San Diego, Qualcomm Stadium. Now, I've not been to Petco Park yet, but I went to the old cookie cutter Qualcomm Stadium back in 1998. I have been to, they call it Oracle Park now in San Francisco. It was Pac Bell Park when I went. I want to say it was 2000 or 2001. I went there. Made it to Dodger Stadium in the early 2000s as well. So I've been to Dodger Stadium. I have been to Chase Field / Bank One Ballpark in Arizona, my least favorite ballpark. Just do not like it. It's like watching baseball in a Costco. I've been to both Globe Life Park, or the ballpark at Arlington, and Globe Life Field in Texas. Loved Globe Life Park, the old one. Do not care for Globe Life Field, the new one. Again, indoor baseball doesn't always sit right with me. And there's so much concourse in that stadium. You're just always aware of how much concourse there is. Also, terrible atmosphere for a game. Although they've won a World Series. I'm sure those games were popping. I went to a regular season game in June and they weren't good, or July. So that's on me. But my second least favorite park that I've been to date, behind or slightly ahead of Chase Field. I've been to Wrigley a couple of times, Wrigley Field, Chicago. Loved it. Been to the old Busch Stadium, the old cookie cutter Busch Stadium, and the new Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Both good parks. Good parks. As cookie cutters go, the old Busch Stadium was pretty good for baseball. It was baseball only by the time I got there. Been to the K plenty of times. Behind Coors Field, it's my second favorite park. I know I'm biased because I go there a lot, but I love Kauffman Stadium. I really, really do. I think it's just a fabulous place to watch a baseball game. And I have been to Tropicana Field in Tampa, and I liked it more than I thought it was going to for being an indoor stadium. So that's the list. That is the complete list. Everywhere I've seen a Major League Baseball game. Again, my favorite is Coors Field. My favorite outside of Coors Field is Kauffman Stadium. And my favorite outside of the stadiums I've been to the most, probably San Francisco. Best food, either the Dodger dog or getting a barbecue, whoever's in the stadium at the K, whether it's Joe's, I think it's Joe's now. It used to be Gates. Barbecue sandwich. Fish tacos in San Diego, too. First time I ever had a fish taco was at a Padres game. Really, really good. Thanks for the questions, Jeffrey. Mark H. wants to know if I think the Nuggets will bounce back in 2025-26. They're going to win the championship, Mark. That's what I'll tell you. They're going to win the championship. I love their offseason moves. They've deepened the roster. Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown is back. Christian Brown's going to get a contract extension. Little birdie telling me that's soon coming for the former Jayhawk. So, yeah, I'm all in on the Nuggets. They're going to win the championship this year. Can't tell me otherwise. I'm a little biased. Next question. Mark B asks, which Major League Baseball rule change do I hate the most? It's the Ghost Runner. It's not even close. I hate what they've done to extra innings to the point where, honest to goodness, and I know everybody had fun with the swing off last night, and I had fun with it at the All-Star game. Leave that in the All-Star game. At this point, honest to goodness, if we're worried about overextending pitchers and pitching staffs, if we're worried about games being too long, taking too long, just play one extra inning, a real extra inning, and then if there's no winner after 10, call it a tie. It's fine. Ties are fine. We have ties in the NFL, and it's America's most popular sport. I think Major League Baseball would survive if there were ties. Just at this point, just have ties. It's better than the bastardization of baseball that the Ghost Runner is. So that's my answer. Vance bet that was going to be my answer. Vance, you were right. Question from Andrew, another one. With Cal Raleigh's nickname, what's the most unique nickname in sports you've heard? I shared one in the YouTube comments. There's a prospect for the Boston Red Sox whose name is Jostinson Garcia. And Jostinson is spelled Jhostynxon. And they call that young man the password. Because if you let Google come up with a strong password for you, it might look like Jhostynxon. That's clever. I like that one a lot. There's an old school one. I believe the gentleman's name was Bob Ferguson. He was an outfielder and infielder in the early days of professional baseball, like the 1870s and 1880s. And they called him Death to Flying Things. And that is an awesome nickname. That's probably my favorite baseball nickname of all time. Death to Flying Things. Because he caught everything, you see. Good question, Andrew. Vance, another one from Vance. Best pitcher, catcher, battery of all time. That's tough. Because are you asking, like, who's my favorite pitcher and my favorite catcher of all time? Or the best pitcher and best catcher? Or just, like, the best combination of pitcher and catcher? That one's a little tougher. The one that jumps to mind immediately, though, is Greg Maddox's successful pairing with his personal catchers over the years. Eddie Perez in Atlanta was his catcher for a lot of years. He wouldn't throw to Javi Lopez. And I don't think it was anything personal. He just liked throwing to Eddie Perez. So that's the one I think of. I think of Greg Maddox dominating and Eddie Perez being his personal catcher for all those years. Another one from Mark B. What's the one championship in any sport I'd like to witness in person as a fan instead of being credentialed? Probably a golf major like the Masters. They'd be really cool to just be able to walk the course at the Masters, be in the gallery. That would be really cool. I think that's probably it for me. That's probably the one. Like, a lot of them are really commercialized when you're in the stands anymore. Like, I'm good off the Super. If I never make it to a Super Bowl, I don't feel like I'll have missed anything. If all I ever experienced Super Bowl as just watching it on TV, I think I would be fine with that. I think I'd be okay with that. I've been to a Final Four credentialed, but that's not a great spectator event because the buildings are so big. Unless you're sitting close, it's not a great spectator event. So, yeah, I think it'd be a golf major. I think it'd be the Masters. I think that'd be the answer for me. Let's do some more questions from the 316. My thoughts on the 2012-13 K-State Wildcats and if Colin Klein should have won the Heisman. Colin Klein would have won the Heisman if they'd have gone undefeated. I firmly believe that if K-State hadn't lost a game that year, he would have won the Heisman. He was awesome. He was a machine. I don't think that, it's funny because Tim Tebow had won his Heismans before Colin Klein. So we kind of knew what to do with a player like Colin Klein when they were among the best players in the country. It's not like we'd never seen anything like that. Maybe being so close to Tebow, the novelty had worn off. Maybe if there had not been a Tim Tebow who was like the ultimate running and short yardage threat and also credible enough as a passer in college in such close proximity to Colin Klein, maybe we would not have had Colin Klein fatigue. And maybe that's why he didn't win the Heisman. Or maybe it's because they got bludgeoned by Baylor on November 17th of that season. And maybe that's why. Maybe if they would have been unbeaten, champions of the Big 12, maybe he would have gotten the trophy. But I do wonder if there was voter fatigue that year with Colin Klein. If maybe, just maybe, he was a little too similar to Tebow for people to really get excited about voting for, because they'd already given a Heisman to Tebow in recent memory. Maybe that's a silly thing to think. I don't know. He finished third in the voting. Manziel obviously won it that year. Teo was second. I bet if you re-voted, he'd have finished ahead of Manti Teo. I don't know if Colin Klein had a girlfriend in college, but I know he didn't have a fake one. So he had that going for him. One more from the 785. Run out of time, so I got one more from the 785 on the text line. What was the most memorable play or hit you had from when you played baseball, from my baseball career, such as it was? Half a year of Division III college baseball and high school before that. My most memorable play, I'm sure I could give you a lot, but one that always sticks out really fondly for me, I was a freshman. I was going to be a sophomore in high school, and I was playing in a summer baseball tournament, and the tournament was for U16s. So there were JV teams playing in this tournament, and we were not a JV team. We were a freshman going into sophomore year team. We had a bunch of 14-year-olds. I was that summer 14 years old. And the team we were going to play, we were into the championship bracket. We were going to play in the quarterfinals. It was my day to pitch. And the team we were playing in the quarterfinals, all of these dudes drove to the game. And all of them were much bigger than I was at 14 years old. And when I started warming up for that game, I could hear the laughter coming from the other dugout. I could hear them laughing at me. I could hear them essentially ridiculing, thinking they weren't going to have any problem with this little shrimp of a freshman who was on the mound. We beat them. I held them to 2 runs over 6 innings, and we beat them, and it was extremely satisfying. I just kept going outside corner, changes speeds. They were on their front foot the whole game. And after that game, the home plate umpire came up to me. We'd done the whole handshake thing. We were going back because we were getting ready to play the semifinal. And the home plate umpire came up to me after that game and said, "That was impressive pitching, young man. I wanted you to know that." So that was pretty cool. That's the one that stands out to me. Happened Legion C ball back in Aurora, Colorado, and stuck it up the butts of some jerk juniors and seniors who didn't think I could pitch. That's the one for me. That's the one that stands out. Thanks for the questions, everybody. The final word is next on 580 Sports Talk. All right, I lied. One more question because it's really good and I have a really fun answer. I'm going to have to run through it, but it's my final word today. Mark B. in the YouTube chat asks the best dugout practical joke you've ever heard of. Let me tell you about the best one I was ever a part of. We were playing a game. We had just played in a tournament. This is my summer before my senior year. This is Legion A baseball. We had played in a tournament in Billings, Montana. We were coming home. We stopped in Cheyenne, Wyoming to play a doubleheader against a team from Cheyenne, and they stunk, and we kicked their butts in this doubleheader. Anyway, second game of the doubleheader, we had a DH who was a freshman, big kid, ended up getting a football scholarship to Colorado, offensive lineman. So he's a big kid, not much of a contact hitter at that stage of his baseball life. And he struck out his first 2 times. And when he went to bat the third time, we all decided that if he got the hat trick, we were going to do like in hockey where you throw your hats out onto the ice. We were going to throw our hats out of the dugout and onto the field if this kid struck out a third time. He was a freshman. We were older. It was a little mean-spirited, but this is what we were going to do. We all made the plan. Anyway, this kid gets down 1 strike, and on the 1 strike pitch, he hits a pop-up straight up in the air. I mean, straight up over home plate. And we're all in the dugout screaming at the catcher, drop it, miss it, miss it. The catcher missed it. Not on purpose, but he missed it. And the ball went foul. And the kid looked back at the dugout. He knew what was coming. He waved at a slider on the next pitch. And when I tell you, we threw hats, we threw our gloves, we threw bat bags, we threw everything that was in the dugout out onto the field. That's the best prank, dugout practical joke that I ever heard of. And that's how we're going to end 580 Sports Talk today. We're back tomorrow from 3 to 6. I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.